wish we were chasing waterfalls somewhere in North Carolina. And I wish I was holding your hand while your hand was holding mine.
Welcome to another episode of the Tailwaters Fly Fishing Podcast. Join us as we talk with local guide and founder of Trophy Water Guide Service, Justin Shroyer. We'll be discussing growing up in a fishy family, East Tennessee fly fishing history, river etiquette then and now, changes to our tailwater fisheries over the last 20 years, figuring out the low water game on the South Holston, establishing Trophy Water Guide Service and holding it to a high standard, losing a shop to Hurricane Helene, and working through the other side, and also balancing a career in guiding with having a family. Justin is an extremely talented guide on all of our local waters. Not only do his results speak for themselves, but also those of the broader guide service and people who have fished for trophy water, past and present. Tonight, we're going to get a special glimpse into some of the history of fly fishing in East Tennessee, which I'm super excited to share. We hope you enjoy. Tonight, we're sponsored by no one, but we want to shout out the Blue Ridge Guide Association. It's an organization that's not just for guides. They do plenty of work to protect and oversee our local waters. If you live in the area or are looking to make a financial donation to an organization making an impact, check them out. And speaking of local groups making an impact, check out Trout Unlimited. If you're in this area, check out the Over Mountain chapter and or the Cherokee chapter. They're extremely active in cleanups, stream sampling, and fishing opportunities. If you live in this area, get involved, and if not, find a group close to you. We also want to shout out the Watauga River Lodge. The Watauga River Lodge was severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. It's taken about a year for them to rebuild and reopen. Please help get the word out that they're back and open for business. It's a beautiful property run by great people. Let's help them get back on their feet post-Helene, whether that means booking a room, taking a guided trip, or telling someone that you know. All right, Justin, thanks a lot for coming on tonight.
Yeah, John, appreciate you, man. I've enjoyed your podcast and yeah, it's they've been entertaining and insightful. I've been getting some useful tips from some of the other dudes and yeah, glad to have on. Always enjoy your
Good.
company and the nerding out with you. And I always tell everyone, man, you're like, other than maybe Chris Morris, talking trout with you, two of the nerdiest guys I know, you and Chris, just, I really enjoy it and loved your shop there. It's been a good resource for everyone. And yeah, man, pumped.
Dude, awesome. Well, I'm super excited for tonight. So for everyone's benefit, you're the founder of Trophy Water Guide Service, and how long have you been guiding roughly?
Since 2003, I started on the New River, just like running shuttles for Zaluz Canoes and New River Outfitters, running their little camping trips and stuff like that, and started there. And so that was kind of more of a, shuttle boy, but we were doing some, canoeing, camping. We had some guys coming back doing little smallmouth stuff, and then Chris Wood, who was at Appalachian Angler, found me um, while I was doing that stuff and asked me to run some shuttles for him. And I got in the boat with him, and he was a professor at App State and in their grad program, and we just got to talking, started playing softball with those guys, and Appalachian Angler hired me on, that following summer. So was kind of full go 2004 on, and never stopped. Just kind of one of those passion things that I just kind of kept going with. So yeah, man,
Awesome.
started back in the kind of the good old days, I guess, but it's definitely changed, but it was a fun early ride there, learning from all the best.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to get into that in a ton of detail. But usually we
Cool.
kick these things off with a little bit of a fishing report. I know
Yeah.
you've been on the water, so what have you been seeing?
Yeah. I've been on the water nonstop. I had Easter off, and I think I've been out there every other day other than the spring break where I took my kids down to Cayman. But been doing a ton of smallmouth. That's been, pre-spawn. Some kicked on to the spawn, I would say. I've been over on the Holston, fly fishing and spin fishing. I do a lot of spin fishing guiding. I got a lot of guide guests that like to do that. So it was really good there, before that full moon. And then, the day of the full moon, slowly started to see a drop, in the production, but it's still been good, just kind of grinding them out now with Ned rigs and square bills and doing that. So that's been good. Big caddis hatch over there. Caught a lot of smallmouth on dry fly, which is,
Sweet.
cool. People don't try it if you haven't. Go do it. Use the little bugs. You'll see them eating them, and you'll be surprised how many 3-pounders are eating those caddis. So that's been awesome. Low water
Hmm.
everywhere right now. I've been doing a lot of Watauga. Um, Caddis hatch has been awesome. My experienced anglers are loving it. If I take a beginner in there on those big risers, I'm having some harder days, but
Hmm.
I'll stick to the middle river with beginners right now. South Holston was awesome in that. What was that flow? Anywhere from 200 to 1100 there for a few weeks.
Hmm.
I really dug that. That was just kind of pretty and nice and good numbers and chased some nice ones, but wasn't really dialed in on the lower river big fish down there. I was just kind of taking the beginners to the upper river and having fun with dry dropper. So that's been good too. Hopefully they kick that thing back on, clear this weir out that they're doing with this 10 CFS flow. But
Yeah,
been itching to get back over there on the lower part, to be honest. So I know the sulfurs are probably going. So,
yeah.
but that little caddis thing and the midge thing over there was good. So it's been good, man. I definitely saw a drop in the fish in the last since that full moon. Like that was a
Hmm.
serious deal there, and I'm always a believer in that. And so yeah, a little, grinding it out a little bit more right now, but it's been good. Went down the
Yeah.
lower Watauga today into Boone Lake and blanket caddis hatch everywhere. Big risers, big tricky risers. I kind of got my
Hmm.
butt kicked because I was with a group trip and we kind of I got behind a bunch of boats, so it was a little trickier, but hooked the fish I wanted to fit to hook and didn't get the big boys in, but caught plenty of nice rainbows and a couple nice browns and but yeah, it's been good. It's been fun right now. I like early spring, always have.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great time to get out on the water. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, I don't have too much to add to that. I've been out a little bit, but Watauga Caddis Hatch has been great. Holston, I'm gearing up for the Sulphur Hatch, and there's a few other niche little things that I'm looking forward to. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, good. Well, I know you kind of laid the table a little bit with meeting Chris Wood and getting started at Appalachian Angler. But before we go all the way into that, maybe just give us a quick overview of Trophy Water Guide Service and where you're at today, and kind of, I know it's a tight-knit family group, but
Yeah.
just give us a quick overview to kind of help set the table.
Yeah, man, you said it. Tight knit. Me, myself, Rhett, and Nick, my right hand man, and then Corey Smith
Hmm.
really keeps us all together. Corey's instrumental in just kind of planning, booking, business feedback, stuff that Rhett, Nick, and I are not good at. So we've always been good guides and mediocre businessmen. So Corey has that touch to it. And Corey took off guiding this year. And this is his first year kind of, working for anyone and everyone he can. And shoot, now it's hard for me to get him. So he's doing great, man. He's doing awesome. I use Aiden a lot, Aiden Blackburn, Logan Shell, and Dom and Castello and a few other guys. Rucker helped a lot of different guys helped me out. Scooter. So yeah, I got I'm blessed to have two brothers that are awesome. Just world class guides. We kind of keep it to try to 4 boats a day. Kind of cut it off there. 5
Hmm.
maybe. We hate 6, we hate 7. We just don't do it. I don't want to put pressure around me with my customers. They're like, why is it busy? Oh, we have 7 boats out there. So we kind of keep it
Hmm.
tight, and do that thing. Nick's doing, new little thing for us. Nick's done Alaska the last couple seasons. He's taken our customers up there. Um, and then he's also doing Crooked Island. So he's booking some guys for that stuff too. He's working with, some of the guys that helped out Appalachian Angler back in the day that I worked with. So some old connections there, Connect Talk, Crooked Island. And so he's doing that. And then Rhett and I just kind of sticking around. I get down to Louisiana with some friends and slash customers, when I can.
Hmm.
Last couple of years I haven't with my daughter's volleyball and all that, but really just
Yeah.
South Holston, Watauga, Nola Chucky when it's back. We keep checking
Hmm.
it out. It's not ready for guiding yet, and put in issues mainly. And then I do a lot of Boone Lake stuff too.
Hmm.
So carp, Boone Lake, and that. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's good. It's just we've been rolling along since 2009, and just doing our game. The
Well,
fly shop got taken out in Helene, but I'm looking to get back into that eventually, just like small, like we were, just kind of for our customers stopping in, part-time open hours like we always have, and
hmm.
working on a couple deals right now. Had one fall through, but gonna have a new shop and new home base here soon, hopefully. Just working on the right spot. I kind of want a forever spot, so just taking
Yeah.
my time with that. The market's been a little whack.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck with that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I know when I've been in your shop back in Hampton, you always described it as kind of a guide shop, and
yeah,
like I can tell that you and your brothers love being on the water, and you do that extremely well. And it helps support you guys, right?
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
does. It's all we do. It's all I've ever done since '04. So
Yeah.
it's been a full-time gig since then. Just
Well,
really blessed to have that. And I couldn't add is everyone always asks, like, how do you work with your brothers all the time like that? And I said, well, first off, we're in different boats, so you know at night we get Rhett fired up on the text thread and get all of his secrets out, and then try to pry anything we can out of Nick. And and then Corey keeps us straight, and then the contractors I use are awesome dudes and really
Hmm.
nice guys and professionals. So just
Yeah.
working with good people. I've been through some that haven't been good, and I've hired some of the best anglers I've ever fished with who didn't work out as guides. Not to their own fault. Guiding's just a thing that's really, you got to fish through your customer and love it and love the grind and keep yourself fresh and avoid the burnouts, which is hard. But I think we have all, gotten through some of that and just live the guide life, and then, keep family first, and then guiding, and business second is how I roll.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I was going to try and say up front too is that I would say that Trophy Water Guide Service is held in very high regard by all of your peers, and that's based on results. And if I hear that someone runs trips for you or has worked for you in the past, I usually hold them in pretty high regard. I was just going to ask you if you have any high level thoughts on that, if you know why, if it's something that you do within Trophy Water. We'll get into more later, but just curious if you
Sure.
had any initial thoughts.
Yeah. I do a pretty like some of the contractors have done it on their own and got to their by self scouting in that, but the guys who have been like Chris Morris, for example, who owns Holston Valley Anglers, one of the best all around anglers I've ever fished with. He's like, I don't know, like just we nerd out, man. We just like talk about the why aren't we catching fish, instead of just
Hmm.
like coming in and doing the dick measuring contest at the end of the day. It's like, why didn't we do well here? How are we doing well here? Where do we need to go next and why? We live and die by generation schedules a lot, and we have learned to run with certain flows and optimize that. Um, Corey Smith, it's a lot of time spent, and Nick as well. My brother Nick spent 2 years in the shop before I even let him get clients. Not that I didn't let him get clients, but before they were comfortable as well, to, handle some of our clients who are experienced anglers, guys that have been fly fishing longer than we've been alive, and
Hmm.
I was blessed to have, a big client base um, that I developed at Appalachian Angler. Some of them followed me over. Some of them, I still contracted with Appalachian Angler for a couple years. Theo and Hayden, RIP, both of them, set me up for great success. And I got to meet the who's who of fly fishing and see it from all different angles. And then I think another thing is like we're just not stuck on trout.
Hmm.
Like on our days off, we're not pounding trout. We're like on redfish trips, or we're traveling to different areas, or like catching the weird carp stuff, or like figuring out how the high fins bite, like just different things, you know what I mean? And I think you know fishing the warm water, fishing the salt water, and just not sticking in one domain has really helped our company. Why fish react in certain ways. And then, you know, I have a I have a biology background that's helped me immensely. So I was at App State, um, did a lot of fishery stuff with them, worked with Chris over there, did a ton of entomology with him, just like grinding in the labs, tagging fish, fish collections. Shay Tuberty was instrumental up at App State with helping me a lot about stream ecology, stream ecotoxicology. And I think that background helped too. And I've helped, I tried to, you know, teach some of my guys that stuff um, as well. And there's more to it than just what are they biting? Oh, shoot, they're not eating the caddis. They must be eating this. It's like, well, why? There's a why and a how to everything and all this. And just kind of, going at it from that biology base has helped me personally. And I try to, teach my guys that, and it comes to them so natural that they understand it right away. So I think that's been key, man. Just kind of
Yeah.
varying it and getting into the hows and whys.
Yeah. Did you know what you wanted to do when you enrolled at App State?
Hell yeah! I just wanted to become a professional fisherman, and fallback plan was a stream biologist or lake biologist. So
Nice.
I just went into App State. And instead of going into recreation management, which would have been better for business, 100%. Um, it worked out, but you know what I mean. I wanted to. I was into it, man. I was good in
Hmm.
science. App State was super challenging. I was in there with brilliant kids who pushed me. When I got into the field, though, I noticed that I had an edge on them. In the books, I did not. I was working. I was a B student up until senior year when I got into the ichthyology, the entomology, and the hard courses, where it was actually in the field and like really challenging for everyone. I saw that I shined there, and I just kind of, that was an awesome experience up at Appy. And but yeah, I always knew I wanted to get into fishing. I thought I was going to be when I was 15, 16, I was bass tour, get into that. And then I got to
Hmm.
App State, and I always dabbled in fly fishing, but when I was up at App State, I really got into it hard. Um, and then the guys at Appalachian Angler, finished me off, and that was, just kind of smoothed me out on it and taught me I knew how to row a boat. Nick, Rhett, and I grew up, going down rivers. We grew up on a nice little spring creek and had two ponds on the farm, and so we just grew up fishing. And I had three younger brothers, so I guided my entire life, and
Yeah.
that was, so it just came natural. And so yeah, man, I always wanted to do that.
And where was that you grew up?
I grew up in Ohio, so a little town called Troy, Ohio, kind of
Mhm.
western Ohio, and we had a little spring creek that ran through the farm and two ponds with bass and catfish, and the Miami River was nearby, and the now gaining popularity, the Mad River was nearby. So
Mhm.
which is a really good brown trout stream. It's awesome. Like it's cool. Big brown trout. And so we kind of grew up doing smallmouth, and then I'll do some trout here or there. And then my grandparents lived in this area. So they were west of here on Watts Bar Lake. and I had to we stayed with them a lot through the summers. I mean, heck, sometimes we lived with them, and
Hmm.
for months at a time, and it was that was good too because we were just stuck on this point on this beautiful, awesome bass fishing lake and nothing to do but fish, ski, and help my grandpa with his various boats he had. So um, just grew up doing it, man. That's all we ever really did was fish and hunt and play sports and fight,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
brother wise. So yeah, it was an awesome childhood. I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's cool. That's cool. So I know you mentioned getting started at App Angler. Did you fish the Holston and Watauga before you hooked up with them, or did you start?
Very, very seldomly. We would like, I was mostly New River. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I would come down with Chris Wood and Fun Fish. And I found out he was like secretively training me and not secret, yeah, a little bit. Like he kind of took me on like four or five of them down there and showing me the ropes. And I was just baffled. I'm sitting here with a world class angler, like, oh gosh, I've been flipping woolly boogers and dry flies in little creeks and, swinging crawfish stuff in the new. And look at this guy reach casting and mending and all that. So, had a
Hmm.
crash course, man. Back then, it wasn't as technical though. You could tight
Hmm.
line Prince nymphs all day. You know what I mean? And, you could flop out a big thingamabobber. I actually use the old crappie the crappie bobbers that you buy at Walmart, and you'd hang a lead, split shot on, and I'd hang on one Prince nymph or one pheasant tail, and you would have fun in the trophy section. So started in the trophy section,
Hmm.
just constant, in there a lot, and then the low water South Holston thing wasn't even a thing.
Hmm.
High water South Holston, you went over there in the afternoon for sulfurs. So yeah, it was kind of like a slow learning curve, 2000, 3, 4, and 5, learning all that. But I was guiding a lot. I was kind of their Nolichucky guy because I had a lot of
Hmm.
bass background. And to be honest, fish, did way more bass than most of the guys that worked there, other than maybe Andrew Tashy. It was the bass was no problem. That was automatic, but the trout was definitely a learning curve, trying to keep up with Travis France and Ollie and Evan Dowdy and Mike Adams and like what the heck? How in the heck are those guys doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like App Angler is a name that people who have been out here for a long time recognize instantly. They've got a bunch of stories, maybe memories, but there's a lot of people who have no idea that it even really existed.
That's
So
a shame.
for those people, give us the 2 minute overview. Like, what was it like? What
Okay.
was it like
Yeah.
starting there?
All right. Yeah, that's a hardcore old school guide service, man. That's
Hmm.
the real deal. They were, highly competitive. That whole thing has gone by the wayside nowadays. Everyone's pretty buddy buddy. But it was one of those operations where, you don't pass people, you stay behind them. If there's four people at the put in, you go somewhere else. Um, you know, you talking about the who's who of fly fishing, they were guiding, Bob Clouser, Lefty, Stu App, all of them, man. I mean, the who's who of fly fishing, they ran through that shop on the East Coast. We ran little Moravia rafts,
Hmm.
and then, had a couple drift boats in there. You would show up to the shop and you would kind of old school style. Everyone would pick their boat in the morning, grab whatever rods were available on the rack, load up your boat at 6:30. The guests would meet you at the shop no matter what, no matter where they're staying most of the time. Head out, get back by 6:30 up in Boone, drive them
Hmm.
to and from. Shore lunches, you know what I mean? Like cooking fish on the river. Um, Usually, they would have fish from Alaska that they brought back. If not, if we didn't have that, we would, they would order it in. It was pretty cool. It was an old school style guiding that I really miss. I really wish
Hmm.
that kind of hung around a little bit longer. Where
And I,
I'd work for an individual shop, you know what I mean, and like only
mhm.
through them and really tight knit and everything was close. I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. And I know there's a number of like pretty big names and just really well-respected people who work there at various points. So who are some of the people working there when you were there?
Yeah, yeah. So Brad Platt was still there, Anderson and Platt Fly Fishing, and Dylan. One of the he's now a self promoter, but he's a legend. Andrew Tashi, Asheville Drifters, Judson Conway, Elk Creek Outfitters just left there. Several years before I got there, I guess. Oliver White was there. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Talk about one of the bigger names in the industry. He was there working the shop, doing some guiding. Chris Wood, he's a biologist for, I believe, North Carolina right now. Still, he was an amazing mind. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. Oh gosh. And Hayden and Theo, man, they both passed away over the last few years. They were unreal, unreal
Hmm.
guides, not always the easiest to work for, but fun dudes who would keep you in the game. They really cared about their employees, but they would challenge you. It was yeah, just that crew
For
right there, is
hmm.
I mean, all these guys, started their own stuff and have their own operations that are self-made machines.
Yeah, yeah. For people who don't know the name Hayden and Theo Copeland, what were they like? What were they like working with?
Yeah,
I know, they were pretty wild. I've heard they've been
yeah,
pretty intense.
yeah.
How would you describe them?
Exactly that. Wild, intense, but also caring, big hearts.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Theo was, the leader of it all. I would say Hayden was part of the business as well, mainly in the fly shop. Theo was the ultimate grinder, in his 50s, guiding hardcore on the Connect Talk and then come back and bust out, 150 trips down here. Um, and then Hayden had the Bears Lodge connection, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then I think
Hmm.
that's how Oliver kind of got into it as well. But Hayden had the bonefish thing. Hayden's one of the best casters in the world, period. I've got it Lefty Cray. I've got it, some of the Tom Rowland, some of the best casters I've ever seen. Hayden's right there, if not above him. Just one of the most pure casters I've ever met. Fishy dudes, man. They could pick up any type of rod. And like Rhett, Nick, and I pick up a bait caster, pick up a spinning rod. They could sit on the bank with a catfish pole, drink beer and listen to shitty country music and have a blast. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
they were just well-rounded, great old school anglers. And there needs to be a documentary or something made about their lives. They were, you know, they, you know, they kind of set the path for this whole area. And Mike Adams and Ollie were right there, and Brownie Lyles were right there as well. Travis Franz, Evan Dowdy, but those two right there, they taught people how to truly guide, like really guide the right way,
Hmm.
customer service, fishing, everything.
Yeah, yeah. And Rhett worked there for a while with you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Rhett was started in the shop, and then they quickly realized how incredibly fishy he was, when the unmatched passion that he has is just unmatched, and they brought him right along. They kind of start you off back then on wade trips and the
Hmm.
delayed harvest and small streams, and then, after you get off that half day, Theo was so nice. He would grab the truck, head down to the tailwaters, scout it out, let me know what you got. And he would let us burn gas all the way down, put the shuttle on the company. And he was training us with that. And so Rhett was there, for several years. And then, and then once I kind of, you know, they started to kind of go down a path that I wasn't real down with, like a lot of partying and stuff. But heck, it
Hmm.
happens to all of us. I went through it too. You know what I mean? And blessed to be very clean for several years now. But
Hmm.
it was a party guiding lifestyle, man, with them, and it was cowboy style. I mean, it was wild, but it was fun. We
Hmm.
fished really hard, and then we would come back and we would party pretty hard. And
Hmm.
but it was cool. Our guests were right with us, cooking fish on the front porch, after off our trips, and you know, snapping. Budweisers and drinking good bourbon and stuff, and it was a different style back then. It was cool. I enjoyed it. They Hayden and Theo were awesome, and
Yeah.
I in first line on my bio on everything is I worked at Appalachian Angler. So
Yeah,
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 that's awesome. One, I don't know the best way to ask this, but I've heard back in the day like etiquette was different, and just kind of how people would handle things if you
oh yeah,
didn't necessarily abide by the right rules might be
oh
different.
yeah,
Like Brownie gave me this story that back in the day, if you floated the Holston on low water when you got to your truck at the takeout, you'd have your tires slashed because you just didn't do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mike Adams and Rod Salyers. Rod's another dude. If you don't know his name, look him up. Trying to find his old archives. But yeah, him and Mike Adams started floating the low water, the lower South Holston, putting in a long Rockhold there and going down to the lake. I saw they were doing it, and Rod, he was always at the fly fishing shows with me, and he really liked Theo and Hayden, and he liked me
Hmm.
because of that. Um, yeah, so that was the low water deal, and then we learned to run with pulses and do everything everyone's doing now. Uh, T.O. Whitlock, Rhett and I, and Joe Spencer had it to ourselves for many years. It
Hmm.
was, if I knew what I knew now then, my days would have been the best trout days in the country every single day.
Hmm. Hmm.
The amount of fish that hadn't seen flies in those flats, the amount of big lake run browns that people didn't know how to catch,
Hmm.
just stacked up in schools 5 times what we see now.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous. And then, you mentioned the etiquette thing. Like, yeah, I mean, if I was fishing to sulfur, so I'll be fishing on the South Holston right now. I'll be casting to risers with a good angler, looking in one direction. And then it's nothing to have some guy come through with a bounce rig right over your risers and not move off his line, because he's on a
Hmm.
line with a bounce rig or something. Like, or people jump you and low hole you. That didn't happen back then. Like a good I guided with Travis France today, and
Hmm.
and Travis is an amazing guide. Like the drifting with his clients, catching fish is something that I learned from him by watching him down in front of me. Like, oh my gosh, they don't have to cast and mend all the time. You can move the boat with these guests and catch fish and just stay hooked up and stay in that good flow and that good bite. If the water's dropping, stay in the dropping water. Keep moving with it. So
Hmm.
Travis, one time I jumped in front of him. It was early in my guide career, and it was, I don't know, probably 2006 or seven. And he was drifting on a line, and then I knew a pot of fish was in front of him. I ran in front, customer made a nice cast, caught a really nice rainbow in front of him. Looked behind me in the riffle, and here's Travis about a foot from my boat, and in the way Travis does it, professional and everything he does, he goes, "If we want to fish like that all summer, we can fish like that. Bring it." Next day at the put in, I walked right up to him, looked him dead in the eye, shook his hand, and said, "I'll never do that to you again." And I learned right then.
Hmm.
So my little competitive ass had to, be checked, and man, I wish people would get checked now. And I tried checking
Hmm.
people for a while, and that didn't fly with the new Facebook world where we live in. And a lot of talk comes from that, but I just hope everyone understands that, I kind of saw it
You
different back then, and it
well,
was,
you grew up in a different
yeah,
era, a different set of rules, different
yeah,
expectations. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and then everyone wasn't buddy buddy. It was competitive, man. I watched, again, I mean, I watched Theo throw a box at someone because they, came back with a rusty fly box. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just so it was just so different, and yeah, the etiquette's
Yeah.
definitely changed, 100%. But I've learned to
Yeah.
live with it. Now I just, smile like the rest of them.
Well, you mentioned learning that low water Holston game. What was it like the first time you floated one of those prominent Laker holes and caught one or two or had a good day? What was that like?
Yeah. So I first figured it out. I'll tell you the first two things where the triggers went off. I was wade fishing
Hmm.
with Joe Spencer. Um, and Joe's one of the best anglers you'll ever meet. I hugged him today at the put in, and I don't see him very often. And I was waiting with him above where South Holston Lodge is now. It wasn't there.
Hmm.
And we walked in. You'd park up on the road, and you'd walk in. I looked in the back of the hole, and I saw just like this horde of fish going left and right. And I was like, "Are those carp in absolutely dead water?" And I just like eased out on a ledge and looked down at them. I was like, those are big brown trout. So of course I do what anyone does. Like back then, put on the streamer. It's a big fish. Let's rip it in front of them, and scared them all. First cast, boom, little woolhead sculpin, spooked them all out. Never forget it. I was like, ah. And then I let them settle down. And I stared at them, and I watched their mouths open. And I was like, all right, these giant fish are doing the exact same thing all the little fish are up in that run. And so I rigged up a little red indicator and hung down a little scud that I tied for that river and dead drifted down to it and 5X, nothing, nothing, nothing. Switched to 6X, bam, got him. Broke me off, and I was like, that's it. And so that was before floating low. That was before floating low water. So that was a year or
Hmm.
two before that. And then I noticed Mike Adams and Rod were floating the lower section. So I put in one day just on a whim. It was actually Dave Stelling and myself. Dave
Hmm.
Stelling was at Appalachian Angler too. I forgot to mention him. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Dave was, their right hand man forever. They love Dave. He owns High Country Guide Service up in Boone.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess I didn't mention him because he was in with me. He's a little younger, so and Joe Spencer was there as well. And then Dave and I were like, let's just do it. And so we put in with some guests who couldn't cast for shit. And we put in and the water was green. And Dave started running into all the riffles and all that, and he was doing pretty good. And then I remember that day in the flat, and so I just casted a caddis with one dropper pheasant tail off of it and went through the flat, and it was every single cast. They've never seen a fly. And it was just stupid. They were swimming 5 feet for it. And it was really, really ridiculous. And then couple days after that, I ran into a guy named Big Fish Bob, and he was on the bank, and he knew the slow water game. One of the only guys I've ever met before I was doing it. Tio Whitlock was kind of doing it, the slow water game.
Hmm.
And he talked to me and was like, "Yeah, they all sit in the slow water in this river, and you got to be real careful and all this." And I was like, "Sweet." And it was on from then, man. It changed the river. That's for me for sure. You could sight fish it
Hmm.
saltwater style.
Yeah, yeah. So I was told to ask you about this fly in this story. You don't have to tell us what it is. We don't have to
Okay.
describe the fly,
No,
but the
I
green
don't care.
machine. Tell me the backstory on the green machine and what that was like when you started using it.
Yeah, that's Rhett, man. I can't take credit for that. That's Rhett. Actually, no, it's not. It's a guide on the White River. And then Rhett kind of changed it up a little bit. I was fishing with a customer named Harold Hyman, and he's awesome, man. He's a well-rounded angler, fished everywhere. And his guide on the White River fished scuds a lot. It's a scud imitation D-rib thing. They've sold it now as the Scooter Midge or whatever. I think Scooter kind of gave it out there, but it's different than that. It's more scuddy. Yeah, I was fishing below wade fishing below jacks on a half day wade, and Harold opened up his box and said, "Dude, on the white they cracked this thing." And I look at it and I go, "That's better than any little scud I got." And it's a size anywhere from size 16 to 22, 20, TMC 2487, gray or clear D rib, sometimes green flash over the back, and then a little bit of scud dummy underneath it all, or in the thorax. You can also tie a CDC soft hackle on it, or like just any little furry, anything you have laying on your desk, little furry hackly stuff, hanging off of it. Whatever I have laying around, I just pop on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that fly, it rides. The trick with it is it doesn't ride down the rib. If you tie it on your hook right, if you tie it on, you got to thread it the right way through the eye, which is weird. Get
Hmm.
in my boat, and I'll show you that. But the way you tie it on your line, it will ride back down the river. So the fish don't see the hook point first; they see the back of the fly first. There's just
Hmm.
something about that thing that fly a lot. They see it and then it like they turn around, look at it, and then they'll swim downstream of it and hit it real hard. And that's a yeah. I wish I knew the guy's name on the White River, but that's his. And he
Yeah.
never advertised or anything. I think that sometimes you can see it in the magazines. It said it's a
Hmm.
scooter midge.
Yeah. But you guys wore them out with that the first couple of years, is my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, that was deadly. And Silver Bead was that was his, and then we started using the different beads and natural beads, and then I've been using some of the fire hole beads that, and then I've been painting my bead on beads. So
Nice.
just nail polish stuff, just kind of matching scuds, and then um, you can make that fly into a mayfly, put it on a straight
Hmm.
shank. You can do all sorts of stuff with that, little D-rib material. I don't even think he was using D-rib. I think he was using mono when he tied it. So the
Yeah.
original pattern, I think, is mono, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fly's killer, man. I used it today.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've got some other questions that came from brothers, old colleagues,
Oh
current
boy.
colleagues. But just kind of teasing out a little bit more of the history and your experience. Tell us about the transition from rubber boats and rafts to hard boats on the river.
Yeah, yeah. So I started guiding in a 13-foot Moravia. Like the customers' feet were literally hanging off the side of the river. They were sneaky. Those are the fishiest boats I've ever fished off. They were dark green. The frames were kind of, not real shiny. That was fishy. You stayed down low. The guests sat down. You could get close to fish.
Hmm.
And then like Travis, Brownie, and Ollie, all of them got the drift boats and these, a lot of times big white hides, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then Theo and Hayden had them too. Don't get me wrong. Hayden had an old South Fork skiff that was super fishy. But I noticed when I got in those things, man, like you had to stay away from the fish. Like in
Hmm.
the Moravias, we were sneaking right up on them, and all that. And then my first personal boat was a NRS raft, 14-foot big boy, a big high side otter. I love that. That was a good boat. And then eventually got my first hide. But yeah, the rafting game was cool. A lot of people were in rafts. Most people were in rafts back
Hmm.
in the day, and you see the guys coming over from Asheville, the French Broad guys in the rafts and all that. So I
What
missed the
was the
raft
switch
days.
pretty abrupt once it started?
What's that?
Was the switch on the river pretty abrupt once it started?
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah,
See that
yeah.
nice hide going down
Yeah.
the river, big old high, 16-foot big front on it, Mackenzie style. Yeah, it kind of switched up. The guests really drove that, man. And
Yeah.
they were like, "Why aren't we in one of those?" And then, all right, it was funny at App Angler. We would like, try to like go get the hide. You know what I mean? Like who's first
Hmm.
there, and like whoever was first got it. If you were there early or whatever. And it was like that for a couple of years there, and then eventually we all kind of just had our own boats. But I remember the free for all days were kind of cool.
Rhett said back in the day, you guys used to stack two or three rafts on one trailer and drive an old beat up green Suburban out from Boone with six guests out
Hell
here to
yeah.
fish.
All the way until I wrecked the hell out of that thing. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So we would like do overnight Nolichucky trips too.
Hmm.
And we would stack two rafts on the trailer, tie them down, two frames up on top. And it was a tight operation. It wasn't like some just thrown together thing. Like there was a way to it. And then we would have a raft on top of the Suburban.
Hmm.
And yeah, and we would save on shuttles and do it like that. That back then it was $300 a trip, maybe 400 my second or third year at Appalachian Angler. And
Hmm.
so, if you have 40 in gas, 50 in shuttles, you're kind of limiting yourself a little bit, 50 to 100 in tackle, on an overnight trip. So
Hmm.
we would stack it up. Yep. And then if we had four people, two guides up front, and then four guests in the back of the Suburban, two rafts stacked up. You get down there, unload it. I will never forget watching all these guests just stare at us like, whoa, in the heck are all these young guys running around like crazies, at the trophy section put in but that was fun. Yeah, that was different.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When did bottom bouncing become a thing out here? What do I know you don't do a ton of that, but
Not a
what,
ton.
yeah.
Yeah. hardly ever.
Yeah.
Maybe twice last year. No. So yeah, so that what was it? So that 3,000 flow, when all
Hmm.
the grass started growing up in the river, and then beaverhead style bottom bouncing, but instead of like casting, everyone just drifts, and cast behind the boat, flop it forward, cast behind the boat, flop it forward. Not my style, man. I like to teach
Yeah.
casting, I like to teach fly fishing, and nothing against it. It catches fish, and on that 3,000 flow, I did it for a while there when it was needed.
Hmm.
It's just not my style, man. The weight on the
Yeah.
bottom and all that. That was what was that? Probably 7 years ago or something. Everyone started doing
Hmm.
that. So 8 years ago, something like that. And there's a group of guides in particular who just constantly do it. I see them still doing it now when there's no chance of hardly catching them on it because it's all people know, and that's fine. Heck, I mean, I dry drop way too much, so whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I dry dropping 3,000 when I should not be doing it. Yeah. So yeah,
Well, and we talked about it when we were on the boat together, but it seems like that's a rig that catches immature fish fairly well on high
yeah.
water, but you don't catch a lot of mature fish.
No, no,
Right.
not
Yeah.
a ton. You can. But I did notice that. I was like, when I'm doing it, the average size goes, and you watch everyone else, you just can look. I mean,
Hmm.
and then you kind of go inline or dry drop or whatever, and or light, real light nymph, and let it trickle to those big mature fish, and I think it works way better. Maybe I'm not bottom bouncing right. I'm not the best at it, but I do notice the average size goes down. I just think it's real draggy down there. It's just hanging in those little immature browns for real long, and that little wet fly is flipping around on them,
Hmm.
and they get it. I just think those big browns see all those knots. I think they see the shine of it of the leader, and I see that they see all the tag in, they see the weights coming at them, and they see the orange bobber up top, and they just shy away.
Yeah.
But I know some dudes are getting better at bounce rigging big fish, and hats off to them. And
Hmm.
it's a thing, man. On the beaverhead and stuff like that, you got to do it. You know what I mean? And but the whole etiquette with the bounce rigging, floating through people's water, that so needs to go away.
Hmm.
That's if I'm going on one pedestal, that's it. Like, please get off your line and stay off, what I'm trying to do right in front of me. Like, you're literally just go right through me. I literally
Hmm.
like a really popular guide on our rivers. I literally could have netted his indicator like a few years ago. That's how close he was to my boat. Like,
Hmm.
no, they had no problem doing it, and we're fishing that side. Like, I'm just like shocked. Like, what's going on here? And
Yeah.
just that whole ho hum. We're all buddies out here, making money. Like, not like that. I mean, yeah, but just row around me and be like that. But it's
Right.
gotten a little better. That's gotten better for sure. I think because a lot of people have let them know. Some of the older guys have
Hmm.
let them know. The guys who have bad names or whatever for letting people know have changed that a little bit.
Yeah. 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 Um, One other question I had for you was the transition from old school nymph rigs to tungsten rigs.
Yeah.
When did that happen, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah. I think that's costing me now. I think
Uh-huh.
I'm relying too much on it. You know what I mean? Today
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
put on the soft hackle and started doing better.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that just that tight presentation with a really good drift and a good angler with tungsten underneath a light indicator or a dry dropper, really is sneaky on fish. Like, I show guides who fish with me from out west that here, and they're like,
Hmm.
"What?" You know what I mean? Like, all right, dude, yeah, I get it. You're not putting weight on because that's spooking them. You're using tungsten flies as weight. I was like, yeah. And then the jig game changed it completely.
Hmm.
Some of the tight line guys and the Euro guys, which I dabble in for sure. I actually really
Hmm.
enjoy it on fishing on my own. I'm not as good teaching it right now as I should be. But that tungsten jig game's killer, man. I like that a lot. Yeah, using the tungsten as weight, different size tungsten bead heads as weight, hiding tungsten bead heads within your fly, to get down. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's been a game changer. You can use lighter tippet because you don't have to pinch weight.
Right.
I think that
Right.
helps too. It prolongs rigs. It helps with sink rates.
Hmm.
sometimes they like the fast drop, sometimes they don't, and today they did not like the fast drop. I was behind a bunch of boats and everyone was nymphing them up real good in front of me, and I was like, oh boy. So I started concentrated on the some of the flat water on the periphery, and started doing a little better. And I started using little tungsten jig heads and on a real light rig behind people, and was doing a little better. So yeah, the tungsten game's been killer, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah.
I remember what tungsten technology. I think Corey puts it on his damn Appalachian, his awesome little bead company, Corey Hartley's bead company. He puts
Hmm.
tungsten technology on there, and that was originally Joe Spencer at Appalachian
Okay.
Angler that said tungsten technology way back in the day, and then Rhett started just like saying it all the time, nerding out on it. So that's where that came.
Well, dude, we may be moving back to the old split shot rigs. The price of tungsten's like tripling here.
I
That's
noticed, and I
yeah,
have so much from 4 years ago. I'm so happy that I have it. So,
good.
one positive of the fly shop going down is I got all this backlog of tungsten. I never have to buy any ever again. So, until I open the shop back up,
Yeah, yeah,
just down the road. So, but if, yeah, it's so high. It's so high. Everything is. Everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the shop in Helene. For people who don't know, you guys used to have a shop up in Hampton, and Hampton was and the Doe River was really affected by Helene, and that caused a lot of the flooding on the Watauga River. And
Yeah.
so, what I mean, if it's not too painful or too
No.
horrible, like what was that like? And I know you live in Johnson City, and
Yeah.
yeah, did you like wait? What was that whole time period like for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was nuts. I had tons of family in town. My little nephews were in town, and we were going to go smallmouth fishing. And he said, "Dude, like everything's going down." And then Rhett sends us a video before his cell phone cut out and service cut out over there of a class 2 rapid running in front of our shop.
Jeez.
So the Doe and Laurel Fork backed up into a lake below us, which caused like this big suction whirlpool right in Hampton there. And it flooded us out real bad. It ruined the parking lot. We lost tons of gear.
Hmm.
I had tens of thousands of dollars in losses
Hmm.
with that, which, last year was makeup year. So we worked hard and made that back. But
Hmm.
we were looking, honestly, to move anyways. And I was already looking for new places. So I just looked at it as that, man. You're going to take it on the chin. Everyone took it on the chin. Blue Ridge Guide Association raised some money for us. They saw that we tried to get some stuff through FEMA and the Small Business Association, but all that was covered was a 0% interest loan. So we lost a lot, man. We
Hmm.
lost a lot of gear, a lot of packaging. I had to like unload stuff on the liquidation at the end for wholesale just to come back even. And then, everyone
Hmm.
lost tons of trips, even though the fishing
Yeah.
was absolutely phenomenal right after it. Um, which was crazy on the south end.
Hmm.
All those shad got pushed in the lake. So yeah, it was rough, man. And that shop, someone else came in there after us, tried to get something going, but they've had water issues. It's closed back down again. He's probably gonna have to bulldoze it. But yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And but to be honest, like also, I needed a break. With
Hmm.
doing that, instead of having 2 jobs managing the company and guiding, I had three. With managing a retail store, um, guiding in that, and then my daughter was like hardcore into volleyball and
Hmm.
traveling the country playing, and it allowed me to get back to family a little bit more, where I was a little bit pressed, and really helped out my family life not having that retail overhang on me, which it was successful and put some extra money in our pocket and booked some trips.
Hmm.
But I transitioned. I went on to online booking,
Hmm.
and went through a couple different companies for that, but found one I like and really pushed that, and then reinvested in online marketing, which I'm for the first time in about 5 or 6 years, I'm first on Google, or not first, but first page on Google. I don't think I'll ever
Nice.
be first, but I have the wrong name, but that has
Me
really
too.
helped. So just reinvesting in the new way, man, just the online sales. So,
Hmm.
and then I'm doing, flash sales, and my customers still buy lots of stuff off me with the Loomis, pro deal I have, pro staff position I have with them. So
Nice.
Loomis has been great, and Shimano's been great because I do a lot of spin fishing. So
Hmm.
Shimano and Loomis being on their pro staff is valuable.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Um, well, one other thing I was just going to hit on real quick, we kind of skipped over it, but I feel like that first, like, let's say the week after Helene, 2 weeks after Helene, we're kind of in this weird time where, like, if you were, let's say that you took a client out fishing, like, it was kind of like, I don't know if it was socially unacceptable, but it was a little unclear, like, what the
Yeah,
right thing to be doing is. And
sure.
the point that I was like I kind of got to and started to understand was like you lost all that invent like you have bills to pay, you just lost a shop, like you got to
Yeah,
run freaking trips.
yeah,
And honestly, like someone coming out and taking that trip is helping the local economy is
yeah.
yeah,
It took a few weeks for people to realize that.
yeah.
I think Shane uh, posted something like, "I got to feed my kids, so I'm guiding." Right,
Hmm.
and we spent a week and a half, 2 weeks cleaning everything up to get the operations ready for late fall into winter, which is probably one of our busiest seasons is winter. Our customers love winter, and we're
Hmm.
blessed to have that. So we needed to be ready. So I had to get the operations going again. So we spent a couple weeks cleaning up. But about a week and a half, 2 weeks in, I started guiding again, and the South Holston was just lights out. It was
Hmm.
lights out. It fished as good as anything. It was streamer heaven, and all the shad were swimming around the river and coming through the dam, and it was just awesome. But yeah, man, we had to guide like, yeah, we were getting cracked online a lot for it. I was posting stuff like, "Come on, come support us. We're still guiding it. Look what we're catching." And then people were like, "Why are you doing? This rivers are stressed." And we come to find out that there was minor kills on the Watauga and South Holston from Helene, and we're
Hmm.
blessed to have the dams that protected everything. Minor kills definitely down a little bit, but um, yeah, I mean, I definitely that first day I was out with a good customer, Larry, and we were just sitting there hammering fish, and he's like, "People are without homes, and we're out here fishing." And I was like, if I don't fish, I'm gonna be without a home. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I got brothers to support, I got employees to support, and we got to go. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, that was a weird time. And it felt like COVID all over again. You know what I mean?
Right.
What
Yeah.
should I
Yeah.
be doing or should I not be doing? And,
Yeah.
you're just sitting there. But in the end, we make a living doing something we love. And it was hard during
Hmm.
Helene and COVID to like, try to, get in your head that this is the right thing to do. But this is our job that,
Yeah.
and if you do it the right way, and it's a great job. And so, we had to do it. We had to
Yeah.
start guiding, and we caught some flack for it for sure.
The two examples I use are you and then also Sam Prosciutti. He had a tree fall in his house during Helene, and then
Yeah.
he got up the next day and he's like, "Well, I got to run a trip to pay for the damage to my house." So,
Yeah. 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 It's hard to lose months of work. I mean, we lost, oh, I forget what we tried to claim. It didn't work, but like, and then Blue Ridge Guide Association hopped in and sent us a little check, and I paid my guys with that, and it was good. You know what I mean? I sent them all some money because we were out, oh gosh, it was probably over 100 trips.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're coming out the other side.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. It's
seems like
been
things are
good.
going well for you guys, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
We're
happy
busy. We're
for you.
fully booked. I don't have a day until June. So I got maybe, I think, one day in May that I could work, but I kind of want it off. So we're,
Hmm.
we're pretty much fully booked up. So at
Yeah,
least for the next couple months. And then June's looking good, and July's filling in real nice right now. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I could ask you about stories and questions and everything all night. I think I'm gonna put in a request that we do another one of these with both of your brothers at some point in the
Oh
future.
no.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one. That'll be
Yeah.
a good one. You get into some childhood stuff. That'll be wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, Rhett and Nick would be good on this. I would love to do that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man.
Is
Yeah,
there
thanks for having me on.
anything
I appreciate it.
anything that we might have skipped over that you wanna mention, bring up? or plug or anything like that?
Nah, not really. I mean, I think we covered it. I wanted to get into all that Appalachian Angler stuff. I'm glad you mentioned, brought that up and we, dive deep into that. I guided with, what should be legends today. They're not
Hmm.
self-promoters, man. These dudes that paved the way, for everyone who's doing it now. They're still going. I'm 43 years old. I started young. So I
Hmm.
started, 19, 20 years old. But there's guys in their 50s and 60s that are still cranking out trips and doing really well. And you know what I mean? You don't hear anything from them. They don't have Instagram, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And they still got the same clients. And you look down the river, most people don't even know, you know, who Evan and Dowdy and Travis France are, and they're out there just raking them in still. And it was good to guide with those guys today and then talk with you today about it. It kind of all fell in line. So
Yeah.
it was, I'm glad we got into that. No, that's something I wanted to really get into. So that was cool.
That's cool. Well, one other thing I was going to hit on is you mentioned it a little bit, but you're a father with two kids, and you guide and have
Yeah.
owned a shop through all of that,
Yeah.
and then Helene and I know the other thing I was going to say is I know that you're there for them. I know that you attend all of their sports events and everything, and
Don't miss one.
you're
Not one.
pulled in so many directions. So
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations on being
Oh,
able to do that. Or
thanks. That's most
yeah.
important for all if anyone's listening that has a young family, remember that. Don't miss their sporting events. Go to all their schooling events. It was stressful on my marriage early on, living the Appalachian Angler guide life and doing that when I had a young kid. And then as she got older, I was like, what am I doing here? I'm sleeping in my SUV in Hampton, you know what I mean? And I could
Hmm.
be back, going to her softball game or something, or going to the weekend event. Take that day off for your family, wife, family, kids, that's first. That's first. Don't let that crusty old customer keep you out there for two more fish where you're going to be late to your kid's sporting event. No way. No,
Hmm.
I'm very active in my kids' life, and that's not going to change. And that's always first. And that's something I'm proud of. I'm glad I've, really put that first and foremost is family first, and go to church with them, go to their sporting events, do all that stuff. It's so important. It is hard. Guiding's hard to have a family life, but meet early. They're asleep at 6 a.m. Get out there,
Hmm.
get home by 4:30, 5 o'clock if you can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's huge. For anyone who's listened to this and hasn't fished with you before, how should they reach out and book a trip with you or anyone at Trophy Water?
Yeah, trophywater.com. You can just go right on there and book. If you call us direct, you'll save a little bit of pennies on that online booking crap that everyone has to do now. So just call and talk. We're still call and talk people. So call the company. Will get to Corey Smith or myself, and we'll line you up. We like to talk to our customers, and cater the trip to them. We ask lots of questions, beginner, advanced, what species, when can you go, what do you want to do, what are you looking to get out of the trip. I think that's very key. A lot of people are just booking and taking ho hum same trip down wherever, every day. But we fish a lot of different rivers, a lot of different ways, and fish our angler strengths. And so anyone who wants to get out with us and learn and have fun first, if you have fun first with our company, you're going to catch fish. And that's kind of always been my motto is that. And yeah, we've been enjoying our new customers now that we're higher up there on Google. This has been awesome. We were kind of stuck in the same rut for a while, so new customers come on. I would, love to fish with some new guys. And if you want to see something different, maybe some more advanced stuff or some different things like fly fishing for carp, God forbid. If you want to, do some of that stuff or some striper stuff or learn the advanced stuff, we're definitely the guys for you.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thanks a ton for the time tonight, Justin. It's
Yeah,
really
John,
good.
awesome, man. Keep at it, dude. You're doing great, man. Love it. Love it.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You have a good night, all right?
You too.
All right, see ya.
I'd like to thank Justin for his time tonight. Justin had to wrap things up at a reasonable time in order to tie flies and get rigged up for his trip the following morning. Justin is clearly a multifaceted fisherman and guide, and also someone who prioritizes being a father. I thought some of Justin's stories about the early days were pretty special, and I hope you did too. Thanks so much for listening.
But it can't keep up with your touch. So girl, come on.